I am a big friend of Ricardo. I've known him for a very long time. We've shared a lot of stories of starting businesses and startups and how to build teams and how to get stuff working better. And I thought it would be a great idea to bring him over from London and for him to share his experience with the fantastic work that I know that he's done at Seedrs. I think a lot of this is also applicable directly to Unbabel and many other companies.
Cool.
So please a warm round of applause to Ricardo.
Thanks, Miguel. Thank you. Thank you. Very cool. Good presentation. Good introduction. Let me just get my presentation on screen. Cool. Good morning, everyone. Really cool initiative. Thanks, João. Thanks, Jonathan, wherever you are. Where are you, Jonathan? Jonathan, thank you. Thanks, Miguel. You just failed to tell me that my boss is coming to the presentation. So, you know, that is a surprise. Carlos, where are you? Carlos. So Carlos is the co-founder of Seedrs. So I might need to redact a few slides of my presentation. So if I skip quickly, know what's going on. So yeah, great initiative. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to talk a bit about, my experience. Really, it's a very honest talk, and I think it's really good to see. I think, in a personal level, as a Portuguese and having spent a lot of time out of the country, it's really good to see these kind of events happening. It's something that in London happens, every single day. You get to learn about new things every day if you want to. But in Lisbon, it's a very bubbling environment at the moment. So it's really good to kind of come back next to where I studied and be presenting maybe with a bit of older face now. Back to you. Click. Clicker not working. That's okay. We can have keyboards here. Okay, so what we're going to talk about? We're going to talk a bit about me, not too much, so you don't get bored. You're going to talk a bit about Seedrs, which is where I've been working for the last 3 years. And we're going to talk a lot about what I've done there. So what I've identified and what I've done. And we're going to also talk about things that I learned on the way. So, since I left the country, what have I been doing? What are kind of my war tales and, things that I shared with Miguel when we go to lunch. What we're going to talk about is things where we spend most of our time, which is work-related stuff, which our wives love it. And then we're going to talk about some principles and some takeaways that you can take, hopefully to apply for you if you think that's good. So I decided to find a way to embarrass Miguel somehow, and I found these photos. I scrolled very longly on my Google Photos, and I finally found this one. And this is just to tell that Miguel has a questionable shirt pattern taste, and I was not very interested in this selfie. But I've just to tell, thank you for inviting me again, and I just decided. But I think it's about exchanging experience that we learn, and we do a lot of this, that is meeting people and talking. About me. So I think I'm very privileged for, I left Lisbon in particular in very early in my career, and the main reason why I left was, guess what? There were no startups in Lisbon. I wanted to work for a startup, and there was only consultancy and agencies, and I was really frustrated. So I decided, here I go to London, and I'm going to work in not a cool startup, but I'm going to work on a startup. So fast forward that, I actually had the privilege to work in countries around the world. So I got to learn a lot about what is engineering culture around the world, what are the other how the Asian culture changes from, for example, the European culture, how the American culture is so different, and and also how, for example, we can build companies in non-Western world. So I spent a lot of time building a business for Africa and Asia, and I got to travel quite a bit, which is cool. And this is where I started. So I studied in Technic, with I think some of you at least. I started as a software engineer. I very early on I actually spent quite a lot of time in Tugs Park in Millennium BCP. I used to wear this shirt and like this suit trouser and these like pointy shoes and all that. And I was not really happy, that's the tale. So I started to do work in this web thing like JavaScript and, you know, at that time PHP. And I actually got quite passionate about the web. And I decided that what I wanted to do was not what I studied. So I spent my last 3 years on technical studying like business processes and all that. And I was really, really frustrated. So I went to a small startup in London called Travel Fusion, which it's very unknown for most of you, but very known in respect. So they actually build the backend systems for the flight search engine that power like Last Minute, Momondo, and others around the world. So when you do search on those websites, you're actually using those guys there. Was a rough time for the guys there. We were like scraping websites, bringing Ryanair fares online. You know, Ryanair CEO hated us. We had a few court cases, and there was a lot of turbulent times for the team and for me. But you know, I learned what it was working on a startup. My first day was like, they presented my desk and there was like a big plant on top of my desk. So it was like, you know, it's not like this fancy stuff that we have today, that we have like really nice colored palette poofs and all that. It was like rough times in startup world. But very early I decided, no, actually I learned that I could do things better, and I wanted to maybe have more influence in how we organize teams, how we decide architecture. So I had a few opportunities, and you know, I ended up working in those 3, I would say, milestones, which was very online companies. So one is Bookster, which is very known, but it's quite big in the US. Whoops, this is my signal. I spent too much time on this slide. So I worked for Rocket, and in particular, a company called Jovago, and I think I have one of my engineers here. Gustav, where are you? So Gustav was in Jovago. He don't allow me to lie here. This is actually part of the Juma brand, which is kind of the Amazon for Africa. It's the first company that went over £1 billion valuation in Africa. Very known to us again, but very known in Africa. And then I guess I met a few people on Seedrs. I met Carlos. We went for a few interviews, and I decided that I was naive enough to accept the work at Seedrs. But yeah, this is a bit my path, and I'm going to talk about Seedrs. And you know, Carlos would be a way better job than me talking about Seedrs. But the idea was, when Carlos was doing an MBA in Oxford with another guy called Jeff Lynn, they came up with this idea: what if we could democratize investing in early stage companies? What if we had like an online platform where any of you could invest from £10 or €10 on early stage? That's really a cool idea. So, you know, I know that Carlos did a few HTML templates in the beginning, in a very closed office in Tugs Park as well. And actually, this became to be one of the main companies in our sector to do this worldwide. I'm very proud of what you achieved, Carlos. I'm very proud to be part of it. But it's all about, you know, how you grow a company from nothing to something that is now needs to establish the engineering culture. We need to nurture and evolve. So in one way, you can go to the platform, invest in early stage. In another way, we are supporting the economy. We fund companies in early stage, something that used to be behind closed doors. So we would meet these like VCs in a closed room. We normally get ripped off on the equity, and you know, we are trying to change that, and I think that's quite noble. Having been in this world before, I know how difficult this is. You know, I've been in startups that failed because we didn't have cash to continue, and you know, we all take our job for granted, but you know, when you are in the fire line, you understand actually you need to make the business work, and that's the most important thing you need to make. Sometimes we are very selfish to ourselves. We like these cool technologies and all that. But at the end of the day, what wins is businesses that can actually work and function, have a solid business model, can have a future. This is what it looks like. You know, we normally say that we do the things right. So we are the first company in the world to be regulated in our space, to be regulated by the FCA. We are one of the main players in private equity, and we are actually getting away from the crowdfunding kind of notion, but we think more about us as private equity. So think about public stock exchanges. That's very big, but a limited number. But now think about small businesses or medium-sized businesses, everything that goes from seed to pre-IPO. That's a lot of businesses, like including Unbabel, like including Seedrs, including all these other cool startups that we know. And we've been growing a lot, around like 60% year on year in the last 3 years. And this is what we are kind of driving the wave. So this is private equity in general. If you look at back 2011, when Carlos was probably doing its HTML and like thinking about the future of this, we are like really riding that wave. And we were one of the main players in this space online. We learned, I think, the vision from Carlos and Jeff were, we can, everyone, our mothers, our family can invest very early on these companies, but we actually learned that actually it's a combination between community, so actually making available that to the community, and VCs that can actually bridge. So a lot of deals that you see on our platform are actually backed by VCs now. So who have we funded? We funded Revolut. That's quite cool, huh? We funded some really cool and quirky companies like the Tesla for scooters back in Amsterdam. We funded like some really low-calorie ice cream that went to like Dragon's Den and for the guys that know UK and basically didn't get any investment. And we are now funding a football club there, AFC Wimbledon. That's the first football club doing equity crowdfunding. That's quite cool. And we operate in this space. And yada, yada, yada. And we got to technology. And we, as a lot of startups, we start with a monolith, a very simple stack. It's one database, one server, and we carry on. And we can actually grow a business quite dramatically just using that alone. So for all of you that think about complicated shit and stuff and all that, it's not that complicated actually. From the technology point of view, it's pretty much simple. And we make choices, right? We make choices in the way we like new technology, we are cool. But the most important thing if you look at 2017 onwards is how are we going to make this really scaled worldwide? How are you going to support all these different things? And I'm very technology agnostic, so I don't have a religion here. I've worked with many technologies, and we can talk all day long about technology. I'm not going to talk about technology choices. I'm going to talk about, what does that mean to us when we work? So one thing that when I spoke with Carlos, and Carlos will find out this now, I thought, come on, guys, how hard can this be? Like, this is pretty much a website. You put some money in, you pay with a card, there's a progress bar that moves. Come on, this is super easy, like, right? This is why I say I'm naive. I was naive, at least. Actually gets quite complex, because we hold money on behalf of our customers. So we actually like more like a bank. We're closer to a bank than we are to a e-commerce website. It gets interesting, yeah? And you can actually open a Seedrs account and hold your money there, and we are accountable for it to a certain degree, because we are regulated. And we do currency conversion. I think actually way before that Revolut came with their app, we were already doing currency conversion at a very good rate. But that's not our business, and we could have built a business like that. That's the next idea, Carlos. And we have systems in place to ensure anti-money laundering. So we need to kind of ensure that the bad guys don't put the money in, launder the money, and there's crime. So we have built systems around that. So this is where I kind of start to lose. And we need to actually have data models to represent real assets, like complicated stuff, like shares, splits, interests, and a bunch of other financial terms that I had no idea about it. Because my world was like travel, hotel, and I understood very well hotel, like rooms. In a room, we can fit 3 people, we can charge this much. I was really good at that. But I was naive enough to accept. And actually, you can transact all that stuff peer-to-peer on a private market, fully online, without any documents. There's real shares that get transferred to you, you get a certificate, and there's money that flows. and all that in a regulated world. Oh shit, gets really, really complex. But I think, you know, when you think about any system, we engineers, we technologists think about, you know, it's all very organized and neat. We see all these beautiful presentations on go-to conferences, very nice diagrams and all that. And some of you are expecting me to present that. And this is Stuttgart Library, very leveled, and it's amazing. And sorry, I'm just mocking with my German friends here, but this is cool. But real startups are not that. So if you're expecting that, yeah, it's more like that. It's way more like that. It's like complex, and there's like spaghetti and complicated world, and typically very difficult to grasp and understand. And this is real pictures of me and Seedrs, my second week, asking my team, hey guys, tell me about our systems. Tell me. And we did that for 1.5 days, okay guys? And we draw and draw and draw, and we continued to draw until we had everything laid out. And we continued to draw whiteboards everywhere, and that was just like, come on, this is my onboarding. This is how a CTO onboards. And that's very cool. But I found it very complex. And I found it not very lean or clean, and very difficult to grasp. And again, this is not a criticism. This is more like sometimes we make technology choices, and you know, we live with it, and we need to understand what that means. So yeah, we do love the zoo. We like these little animals that we create, and you know, all these new technologies, and we like to go in these like round trips to the zoo, and we learn a lot about that. You know, it's like watching a real documentary, but in real life, right? Right, guys? And you know, the zoo makes us happy. That's what makes us happy, because we are technologists. And again, you know, it's an excitement every day because I come to the office and I can touch that new technology every single day, and that no one knows about it. And that's really cool, right? Right? And we redo the same solutions over and over again. We reinvent the wheel over and over again. You know, we have something that works well, but we make our life more difficult. For Seedrs, for example, we went serverless at some point, and we still have serverless workloads, which works great for some situations. But we decided that we had to rebuild like schema migrations in serverless, and that's a great trip to go. That's a great, if you guys are interested in that, we can talk war stories about that. That's super cool. And then we do these small field trips, like there's like when you see like 3 or 4 guys around the screen, they are going in a field trip, and you shall not interrupt them because they packed up and they will camp outside, and sometimes they stay overnight. And that means, you know, it's when that Rust guy, that discussion we had on a Friday at 5 p.m. over a beer, decided to introduce this Rust technology on the stack. And you know, the guy goes on holiday because it's August and it's summer, and no one knows about it. And it's like hidden away. And no one ever touches that because whatever the guy did, it should be right. But then, you know, things break in production and we are in trouble. So that's a bit a shame. And we know we keep up on the toes because, you know, having boring days, it's too boring. It's like, we don't like that. We like to keep everyone like, wow, what if this? Yeah, so nothing breaks, but, you know, we like to live on the edge. And that's cool. We do really good friends on Stack Overflow, right, guys? At least I do. You know, and you know, when you go to the JavaScript world, it's a big zoo. It's like the mega zoo. You join like all the capitals in the world and put in a zoo, it's like great. And you know, you spend less time with your friends, right, Miguel? Like, you know, we make more friends on the online world. And this is all great, right? Sorry, I'm being sarcastic here, I know. And then we know technology. Like, we are really cool guys and we know everything. And you know, we know that Elasticsearch by default does not have authentication. So we actually put Elasticsearch production workloads in production, and we get hacked. This is not us. This is a company that we funded. For those that have been in UK, you know these guys are quite big. And then we are in trouble. So yeah, this is what we do, technologists. And This is all about us thinking that we can be very polyglots, which we can, don't get me wrong, and we know everything. So my takeaway number one, I love to create a kill list. That's what I like to do. I'm way more excited to think how we're going to simplify the application landscape. And I challenge you to do that. When you go back to the office, when you think about this new technology that you introduced last week, why did you do that? Why did you do that? It's just because it was cool? Because you did a tutorial on Udemy, or because you read a blog post on Medium? Yeah, that's so you start putting the company first. What is the company goal and how we can use technology to solve that? You're going to find that you can actually simplify things quite a lot. And as a team, we need to be honest and open with each other. We should be able to have a frank conversation about that Rust decision. And that's super hard because we have big opinions and big egos and all that, and I get it. And those conversations are highly uncomfortable. I get it. But we need to have them. That's the thing. And if we could simplify the landscape, and if we could be clear about that from the day one, yeah, that would make us more effective, maybe more productive. So this is not a criticism, guy. This is what I've observed. And this happened not only in Seedrs, everywhere. Everywhere I've been, this happens. And technology changed a lot. So, there's languages that didn't even exist when I started coding, right? There's a new language every single day. Just pick one, like F, whatever, F#, whatever it is, like Rust, Elixir, Ruby. Yeah, so takeaway number one. So we start with that. We start discussing about, how can we make things simpler? And that's hard, right? Engineers like to make things simpler. So I had the privilege to experience maybe when I started, I think Seedrs was a very mature application, but not very mature architecture. Does that make sense? So application was really cool, really good. Architecture, not so much. So I had the opportunity to rebuild it, which is really cool. So I love that. I think that's one of the, I think honestly, it's about a competitive advantage for Seedrs now. I think it's really cool. So I'm going to talk a bit about that, how we did it. So when I think about that, I think about different things. We as part of our jobs, we need to do multiple things. And, we could fill that slide with a large thing. But what we need to do mainly is typically launch features, right? We need to build some architecture, infrastructure around that. Like we have this new search that does so and so. We need to test because quality test is, we heard that is this cool thing. Sometimes we need to create environments because we have a customer and we don't want to interfere that, and there's someone that does a feature branch and pulls to an environment. So we need to have, I believe a lot, we need to have flexibility there. We need to load test, right? Because we are building a worldwide service, right? We don't want to be in Portugal only. We want to be like outside. So we need to load test. So lots of users came. And actually, that's an interesting thing for Seedrs, because Seedrs, for example, in the hotel industry I've been, we used to do TV ads. So like prime time in Nigeria, like your Google Analytics goes through the chart, your graphs go all over the place. In Seedrs is unpredictable, which is, again, keeps us on our toes. So when someone like Revolut does a push notification, we know we are in trouble. Because, they are growing what was it? Like 7,000 accounts a day or something like that? It was like crazy. So when we fundraise, we're like, shit, like we really need to prepare for a load here. So how can we simplify this? It's very distinct things. How can we do it? So I'm going to talk about how we defy gravity. So, like any other startup, very few resources, there's not many of us. We just got the funding, but it's we need to running out, we need to fund again, and we don't want to run out of money, so we need to make our resources go. So what does that mean for Seedrs? And this is maybe not very popular decision, because I just spoke with Miguel and we are building a team of SRIs. But different companies, different realities, I think. We run the whole engineering team with a single DevOps. Yeah, that's true, to date. And I'm not saying that that's a good, a single person, yeah, single DevOps person. Not saying that it's a good thing, it's our reality, and we allowed that to happen. We made that happen. So we defied a bit the gravity. Pipelines is something that we do often, which means, when I say pipelines, it's meaning, what if you had a process that goes one after, has a piece of functionality, one after the other. So we need to orchestrate some kind of process. That's a pipeline, okay, guys? Think about generically. Yeah, you need to do something, you need to call a service from X time to X time, that's a pipeline. You need to test your code before deployment. That's a pipeline, right? It's not the of the DevOps. Otherwise, we are screwed, right? If there's a single guy that all he does is writing these pipelines every single day, it's not. So how could we use a single tool to run our workloads, like to actually do, it's not the application, it's like all our processes. How do we do that? So that means, how can we create environments with the pipeline? How can we load test with the pipeline? How can we write infrastructure with the pipeline? And you probably heard this a million times, but yeah, we do like our pets. They're lovely. We pet them a lot, and we spend time petting them, and they're really cool. That box that you had like in the office, that is your Jenkins server, that's really cool because it's there, it's protected, you have access to it, you have a terminal, you just turn away. Yeah, that's a problem, because when the guy that is taking care of that box leaves, no one knows about that box. No one even knows the password to the box. And, or you have a password that everyone uses, which is also a really bad practice. So, yeah, kill that. I like pets, but we don't need to have pets in the office. So what do we do? Yeah, Ricardo, okay, you're going to talk about DevOps culture and what does that mean, and blah, 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 blah. And yeah, that means, that has a meaning for me. We talk a lot about buzzwords. What does that mean? What does that mean? It means that we could treat everything as code. For me, that's my translation. It means that we reduce silos when we talk about our architecture. And if we could do that, yeah, we lower the barrier. So, when, so it's a funny story. Rocket Internet had this, I can't remember what it was called. It was like this 24/7 center in Berlin. They had a very big list of startups, as you guys know, they had over 100 startups, and they called me at 3 a.m. in one day, because I was the CTO of this thing. And they called me, "Hey, Ricardo, are you awake?" with a German accent. "Yes, I am. Your Elasticsearch went down." Yeah, it's great. I had no idea I knew that we had Elasticsearch, I had no idea where it was, how I could access it. It was like my third week. So that's a problem. That's a problem. And I actually had no way to inspect. So visibility on that was really close to zero. I'm not saying that you guys have that, but this is real life. This is a company that went public. This happens. So if you could get right from the beginning, we can apply to different contexts. And actually went on a field trip ourselves. Okay, let's find out what we can do. Let's find out what we can do. And our pipeline already, so Seedrs invested for a long time a lot in quality, which is great. I love that. And the problem is our whole suite of tests takes a few hours to run. So we went on a field trip to find out, we don't want that Jenkins anymore or that set of machines we have in the office. We want something online and modern. So we went in CodeShip, Circle CI, blah, 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 all these services which are great and receive loads of funding again. And they are very expensive, basically, and you have very limited leeway, basically. And that did not rock for us. Not rock, because it was a lot of money. And when we made the math, when we were thinking about this big future architecture, we didn't want to be locked with them. We didn't want, there must be a better way of solution. We don't want that. So I question myself a lot of times, is this us reinventing the wheel again and going in these field trips again? And probably not. So we shopped around and we find out this small company called BuildKite. Aussie guys, really cool guys, surfers and all that. And yeah, we thought that was cool. So we started to play around with BuildKite. None of the Gartner reports, you get all these reports, you pay a fortune for these subscriptions, there's nowhere to be seen, and all you could see is Amazon and blah, 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 things that don't matter. But look, guys, it's not about the tool. It's not. It's about what you do with that, and it's about being smart. It's about how you want to set your scene. And this is the point that I'm conscious this is a tech talk and I haven't showed you a single line of code. So brace yourselves. So what does that mean? So we like a lot BuildKite. And we're going to talk about how we use it. and how is that actually really cool for us. So, BuildKite gives us visibility of all of our workloads and lowers the barrier of entry for our workloads. You see here, this is a deployment to production. This is 35 times a week. What else? This is our load testing structure. Runs 1 time a week because there's a guy that remembered to run that. But you know, pipelines are just a sequence of steps. Think about that. So let's go deep into that. Who can trigger them? People, right? I can go and say, I want to do a new build, so and so, Circle CI style. You have GitHub integrations, all that, not new, blah, blah, blah. Ricardo, carry on. You have schedulers, so you know, we need to scrape our competitor site once a day. Yeah, let's do it. Sorry, CrowdCube. And we need to get some robustness here. So the reason why we like so much BuildKite is because we can actually write it as code. And you're going to tell me like Circle CI can do that as well. I get it, but we can customize fully, and the way we look at it is we have all the control in the world, and I'll explain why. So this is a deployment to production. As you can see, it has a few steps. It has a first step that's called setup. And it's something that we defined. This is our system. It's not like the way we do it. We ask everyone that wants to release, do you want to deploy Sphinx? Don't judge me. Sphinx is a world piece of our infrastructure. Yes or no means I want to reindex Sphinx. Do you want to deploy to staging? I know the CI/CDs guys that have all the books will tell you always deploy to staging. We like to break the rules. That's okay. But actually, what we do is more powerful than that. Is we have pipelines that make decisions about pipelines, which means that as the pipeline is progressing, you are making decisions in terms of actually, because this is a deployment to production, I'm going to do so and so different. And because this is the other thing. So you start building your own custom logic here. And yeah, we write it in Bash. Not the horrible Bash that you know from Stack Overflow, but in good Bash, like Google guideline style Bash, documented and cool. So you get in some kind of this more neat code in terms of you call functions in batch. And we can be dry, which means that, we can reuse pipelines. We get into a world that pipelines call other pipelines that do certain things. Typical case is our production deployment will potentially run a test pipeline because it will run our tests. And those pipelines are treated differently and have separation. So it means that when it's here running tests, it's actually running another pipeline. So you get in these kind of pipelines that run pipelines. Just think about that. And the way you do it, behind the scenes, the trigger tests, it's just Bash. But what does that little command do? You can put some cool emojis. What it does is actually add steps to the pipeline. So we actually get in this world that we are really stretching the capability of what we can do. This is code, right? This is just the use case number 1, features. But yeah, okay, how does this look and how is that any different from Circle CI? The beauty of it is you are in control. So, we have a VPC, we have an availability zone, and we have a subnet. And inside that subnet, we can put these agents. And the agents are the machines, the boxes that run these pipelines, okay? Why is this good? From the point of view I have that, I probably know that these things are secure. It's not running in someone else's boxes anywhere. It's running in my boxes, I control it. I have total flexibility on the cost. I can use spot instances. I can use whatever instance types I want. It's quite cool. But how do I control what's inside? Do I get like in this realistic world that we just put a box there and we don't control it? We keep it really simple. We use Linux, Amazon Linux. We install an agent build Kite agent, and we use Docker, which means that all your workloads are actually contained. It's not about Yoast, it's about what you run inside Docker. So what does that mean? What does that mean? It means that in the very limit, you can run everything you want, anything you want. It does not need to know about your application in specific, but typically it needs to know. Because, testing an application has very different requirements than running backups, for example. But again, you use the same set of technology that everyone is familiar with. And, different pipelines have different scaling requirements. Maybe to test, like for example, for us to test, we need 100 machines. For test our pipeline in like really sensible timeline, we need 100 machines. But if you need to run a backup, that's okay to be 1, because we don't care when the backup runs. We actually don't care. We just care when, we care, but we don't care how long it takes. But we do care what the agents can have access to. If the agent has access to something that shouldn't have access, that's a problem, right? Because we are trying to create this bounded context, really neat microservice world and style and all that. And we do care about instances. Is it a powerful machine that we need because it runs fast? It needs like a T, which is computer credits. What kind of machine do you want? And we do care where they sit. So, but we can control that. We can control that, and that's CloudFormation, my friends. This is what we do. This is real code that we run. So this is our backup pipeline. So what we do is something, for all of you that maybe had or thought about CloudFormation, we do have a good experience with CloudFormation. For backups, we need a micro there. We need one agent per instance. We need one machine. That's okay. But this could be anything we want. But we control where it is deployed, where are the subnets, and this is all referred. And how does that work? How can I make that work in my infrastructure? That's the big catch. This is all because we did a lot of groundwork, and we built our infrastructure having this in mind. But that custom pipeline policy there, we rely on AIM roles a lot. So the agent will assume a role, and they only can do certain things. So agents don't go crazy. So you kind of control, in terms of security, what agents can do. That particular example, the agent can do a few things, like can create snapshots, can describe instances. And we have this kind of odd comment here. The world is not perfect, guys. The world is not like Stuttgart library anymore. It's still imperfect. But by lowering this barrier of entry, we can get everyone to read this. And I believe a lot in that. And this relates in how we build infrastructure. All our infrastructure is code, all of it. No one in my team goes to AWS console and points and click and creates whatever it is. That's really important. Which means that all the benefits that you guys use on PRs and all these rebranches and codebase can be applied to infrastructure, and that is really important. So we do use YAML, and we do use CloudFormation, and we do use vendor lock-in if you wish. But this gets a bit circular. We run our infrastructure as code, which means that we run on a pipeline, which means that to deploy infrastructure, we execute change sets on a pipeline. And this is why we can do this. This is why we can do this ref. All these things, ref, is because we have a layered infrastructure. And this is what I want to explain. This is our core infrastructure here. This is all about, what this knows is about like load balancers, DNS, VPCs, and all that stuff. Then we do have a new application, let's say a microservice, a beautiful one. We can put it somewhere on top of it. So we will have another code base for that. Cool. So what does that mean? This is our repo. And this repo, we put fancy names like SFI, so we feel that we are more important than others. But we treat it like code like any other code. We really apply this across the board. And this is a challenge. And why did you do that, Ricardo? That's the problem. So this is a real story. So second week of my work, I was Saturday morning cycling in beautiful Wandsworth Park. For those in London, visit. It's like not touristic at all. You can really get. And I get a call from one of the C-level guys and say, "Hey Ricardo, the platform is down. This is real world, nightmare." I was like, great. Saturday morning, my second week, and then there was something else they told me on the phone. The platform never went down. So it must be related with, like, implies, like, have you done something to the platform? Because it's been running for months, never went down. You know, here we go. Like, the new guy, the only guy technical in London gets the blame. Yeah, that's okay. So, you know, you kind of cycle back home and you jump on the phone and you try to figure out. And what you do is you pet. You pet your infrastructure. You go and say, oh, poor little puppy, it's hurt. Let's see, is it disk space? Is it restarting service? Is it what it is? It would be way better to say, okay, let's deploy this thing again. Let's reboot like we do when something doesn't work, like with our TV, unplug and plug. That's what we should do. But you know, when was it last deployed? What was the change? I have no idea. Is it like someone that pointed and clicked on a Friday afternoon something and did something to it? I don't know, I had no idea. With this I can know, I know. This respects the code review process. So yeah, so we have this kind of .build kite file folder there. And that's okay, if you dive deep into that, you can see the actual things that we are familiar with. Bastionos, like root and all that, that's really cool. So, which means that we can treat it as totally code. It's the same thing. It shouldn't be any different. So we actually code review. You know, let's discuss this better, blah, 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 blah. And then, you know, it's immutable. It's if it drafts, if it kind of goes, if it drifts, like, we can know. We know something went wrong. It's replicable. So executing here has a predictable outcome. So if I execute my infrastructure in Frankfurt, happy days. With Brexit, if I need to, FCA kind of knocks at my door saying, hey, Ricardo, you cannot have that in Ireland. Great. I just need to run this code in another region. That's cool. That's really cool. I think, I find. So yeah, the pipeline looks a bit different on infrastructure, but shares the same tool set. So it kind of runs something called validate template, which is for those AWS CLI. We can create change sets, which means that we actually create a change set on AWS, and then we execute it, and we get immediately feedback. We get the console, we can expand all this, and that's cool. So, you know, an infrastructure change takes 5 minutes, and that's cool. It's all code-based. So, yeah, the diff between what you think it is and what it is, it's 0. And that's important for us, which means that we can iterate our infrastructure fast, really, really fast. Making a tiny decision like not all decisions, like let's talk about like single point of failure, but making a tiny decision about, okay, let's replace our front-end cluster by, let's put more machines, or that's easy, because we have auto-scaling groups, we have instance types, we have health checks, we have a bunch of things. And what about cost? Like, this must cost a fortune. You mentioned 100 agents and all that. We are really clever about it. So everything is wrapped in an auto-scaling group, which means you see those blue lines? All that is deploys. This is how many agents were busy. So when someone is creating a PR, agents go up. Actually, they were already up. Look, they were here. This is the agent count. There were 100 agents, 100 machines ready. Hey, give me. And when my team does, like when we execute, the agents are busy, and that's cool. We are working, and you know, comes whatever that is, 6 p.m., everyone goes home, night, agents scale down. I don't need to do anything. It's very efficient. And this is a guy that woke up early, like me, that tested something or merged something. Agents go up again, but then they die down. And you are in full control of that. You can do whatever you want with that. You can put it more, length more. We can never switch off every time you deploy. It's up to you. There's some learnings there that I have, like, Docker image take time to download, Docker Hub has a rate limiting. There's a bunch of learnings that we have there, but we make it run quite lean. So what I'm talking about is, there's no rule book, right? It's about what works for you. But I believe a lot in simplicity. And when you simplify your landscape, you make it more accessible to everyone. And you remove the silos you have on your team. And it's not about the tool, guys. It's about what you do with that, and it's about who uses it. So what does the DevOps do in Seedrs? They don't write pipelines, no. They could aid people to write pipelines. What they do is they establish best practices. That's how it should be done. They say, actually, our pipeline that runs this and should run that. They create processes. They look at things to improve, but they are not, don't get me wrong, they are not there to get your next container up. They are not there to do that, because we have that. The guys can, literally look at the code, and we are clever people, right? We assume we have that presumption. So your workloads could be as uniform as you want, and make them most agnostic. So that's what we do. Our agents can run anything, but depending on the role they assume. So, let's talk about quality. What is quality? So the best way I have to talk about quality is about talking about like some horror stories or like things that went bad. And that's my main learning. That guy there, who is that? Gustavo.
Was the previous?
My previous boss. His name is Paul Midi. He's a French guy with a really thick French accent, really cool. Learned a lot with him. And we actually, you probably don't, maybe you know, Rocket Internet has a big center in Porto. So it's like Farfetch and Rocket, basically, in Porto. That's kind of the landscape a few years back. So he does like this field trip to our office, and he lands in Porto, and it's a beautiful city. He goes to our office, right? And he arrives at 7 p.m., like very few people in the office, okay? Just me and another guys, and that's okay, like everyone at home, like balance and all that. But he does one thing. He loves to use our products, because like a real CTO, we use our products, right, guys? And you know what happens? He tries to book an hotel. Guy's tired. He picks up his credit cards and punches in his credit card number. And doesn't work. Why? That's the question he made me. Hey, Ricardo, can you come here? Why doesn't this work? I was like, I have no clue. I don't know. Fingers crossed. It's going to work a second time. It's your card. Call your bank. It's always someone else's problem. But that didn't work. So, I looked at the bookings. This is hotel bookings. There's bookings coming through. I can see it. Like, this is you, man. This is you. This is your bank. I'm going to try with my card, and it's going to work. No. All this conversation. And there was like, got quite heated, actually. And I was like, shit. I don't know. I have no clue what the frickin' is going on. Like, what's going on? So this is my team. Like, we have QA, like that checkbox for VC decks. Like, we care about quality. We have loads of QAs. So we had one QA engineer, which is kind of guy that writes automation like cucumbers. We had a room of QA analysts. The guy literally spent the whole day goes through test plans, like point and click Nigeria, point and click, booking with booking with Expedia, booking with Payot Hotel, booking blah, 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 blah. And then 45 engineers, boom, like loads of engineers, like no problem whatsoever. Everyone knows what the hell is going on. And then we have, like everyone has access to data. Data is democratized. Like everyone sees how many bookings at what time, blah, 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 who was the country, IP address, all that freaking stuff. And then we have a guy that sits there and he's the delivery manager. He's there to coordinate deliveries, and you go first, you go next, there's a stop here, and everything is super coordinated. There's no overlap, no conflicts. Then we have a DevOps that is building our new infrastructure, AWS, blah, blah, blah. And then we have a system admin. The guys have changed, and challenging time for the guys because they were trying, do we do it metal, do we do it cloud, and all that. But it's resumed to this was Symfony, guys. You resumed to a very simple thing. Everyone guess what happened? Something to do with int val, very simple. Converting a string to an integer, and something to do with numbers. Zeros. Yeah, zeros. But cards don't have zeros at the top, right? They don't have, because, you know, if 4.7 is Visa, for blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, it actually resumed to this. This is the guy we were getting. No, we sent, this was Paul Midi CVC. And Paul was angry with me. And I had no clue what the hell was going on. So I started to think, we shall do tests. And we shall identify what's wrong. And, you know, I honestly went home on that day and think, we couldn't detect that on that day, by the way. This was not something that we detected in 15 minutes, unfortunately. I was like, how much money have we lost? That's what I thought. How many people experience this? How bad are we as a company to not close the feedback loop? Don't forget, this is Africa. Customer service in Nigeria and Kenya. Great buddies in our company wearing the same t-shirts as us. Oops, sorry. But, you know, no communication whatsoever. Maybe this was happening, but for them it was just another thing. So no feedback loop. So I always say this is about the syndrome, broken window. When something is a bit like iffy, kind of broken, yeah, let's carry on and I mean, no one wrote tests so far. Why do I need to write tests, right? No one needs to do that. Why should we do it? And I'm not saying this is for everyone. I'm being a bit sharp, but no, tests are important. So Paul came to me after that and said, hey, Ricardo, we have loads of bugs on the platform. Loads, like there's bugs everywhere. I was like, how many? How come no one knows? Loads. So, you know, what do you do? How can you have an argument, a sensible argument to someone that the feeling is, you know, our platform is buggy? Because, you know, I paid and it didn't work, now you fix it, but I'm not convinced. So our numbers are not going up because of you, blah, 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 blah. Not blaming culture at all. So we started to identify bugs. And what we detected was the rate we were producing code, those 45 engineers, was brutal, was amazing. We were like pushing code, like there was a delivery man like pushing code, like big releases. Like this is not tiny releases, it's like big chunky motherfucker releases. That's what this means. And the other guys were like working with the QAs, like fixing bugs, like churning, hey, one bug. But actually what I detected was we were creating more bugs than ones we were fixing. So the platform was actually getting worse. So at some point we had to say, hey guys, stop. Honestly, if you don't do code today, that's okay. Read books. We had to go to that situation. Yeah, whatever you do. Read websites. Read like a football newspaper, whatever it is. Because the most important thing we had to do at that time was quality. It was not about releasing the next feature. And sometimes that's hard to understand. And this is because we did not have tests. I honestly believe on that. We did not have tests. So we actually went away. And started building this graph, because with this graph I could have a conversation. And I could say, this is the bugs that we know. I don't know what we don't know. And that's a fair conversation to have. And this is the rate we can do. So we actually had to assemble a team to only fix bugs. Do you remember that? I don't know if you remember. There was like these guys in the corner, 6 or 7 guys, only fixing bugs. Poor guys. But, you know, I had to have a frank conversation with the guy. This is what's happening. But, you know, it's about acting decisively. There's no rule book here. You know, Scrum tells you that bugs should go into Kanban board and it should not affect more than 20% of your time. Blah, 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 blah. Stop. It does not work like that. You need to react. So, what is our approach at Seedrs? We have 0 QAs. That's cool. So is that the opposite that you were saying, Ricardo? No. Everyone writes tests. Which means it's painful sometimes, but we do it. And that's okay. And that's because we didn't have the broken window in the beginning. When I entered the company, we did have a lot of tests, and we continued in that. We refactor safely, which means that shit happens, guys. Don't get me wrong. But things are more visible to you when you can refactor and you have tests. No handovers. There's no sitting with the QA and explaining how the functionality works. A lot of time it was spent there in Javago. Nothing like that. There's no such thing. And if there is any QAs in the room, I'm not saying that your job is done here. I'm just saying that didn't work for me, and that doesn't work for Seedrs. But maybe when you grow, we will have QAs. And I honestly debated myself a lot of times during the Seedrs. Should we have one QA? Should we have two QAs? Should we have that extra testing that no one else is doing? But the moment I introduce a QA, there will be someone that will relax a bit. And I don't want that for now. No pointing fingers. No, it's your fault. You didn't test. You didn't do the feature correctly, blah, 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 blah. We do tests, and not everything is beautiful. We are really good writing BDD. We are really good writing front-end tests. We have big challenges ahead of us, like we are going into an API world, like React and all these beautiful things. We started to do Cypress very recently. We use like Jest and all that. There's a lot of technology there. But, it's about you updating your stack to meet your requirements. So what does that mean in practice? This is a real PR. Something somewhere on the portfolio table, you have basically currencies. So £1, 10 cents, £1, 0 cents, and the sorting was not taking that into account. So 111, well, didn't work. You guys get it? What's the problem? So this guy fixed it. That's his fix. He does something around the amount. That's his code change, one line. This is how much code he had to write. I think it's around 25 lines. And that's okay, because that's what we did in Javago, but that's what caught us in big trouble. And I'm okay with that. I think that's cool, because we increase the robustness. I'm just giving you a picture. This is not popular, and people complain and all that, but it's worth it. It is a pain a lot of times, but it's worth it. And I honestly believe learned this the hard way. This is my takeaway. Quality wins 100% of the times. If we can produce a product with more quality, that's better than a more complete product. And there's an argument here, what is quality and what does that mean to us? So, okay, I'm going to go over the hour, but bear with me, I'm going to be fast here. We want to learn. We need to learn. We do small and frequent releases, which means there's no big bang, blah, 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 blah. Bullshit. Yeah, everyone does it, I get it. But we really do it. We care about velocity. Sorry, we don't care about velocity. We care more about impact, but we do care about velocity as well, because we want to be pre-efficient and active. And we want to lower the barrier to access data, so data should be accessed by everyone. So data is way better than my opinion, ego, etc. But actually, my opinion is better than nothing. And that's, we all read the Lean Startup book and we all measure and learn and do this cycle. But actually, if you don't have the resources to do it, honestly, your gut instincts will win. Because you work in this industry for a long time. So I now work in financial services for 3 years. I should know something about that, right? I should know. And I have founders. I can call Carlos and ask things, and we can discuss. So data is really important, but in the absence of it, your opinion is also good. And we try to build teams that work, and we have a good sense of humor, right? It's important. Like, we are here for the journey, right? It's not about individuality. It's about having fun as we build it. And we try to. I want to believe that we have a good sense of humor. So, if you take into account what I've said before, each piece of iteration is done in a small increment. And when we do release something, think about our big things like secondary markets. We launch a product called Auto-Invest. That is just flicking a switch. And that allows us to be really safe, which means I now can go to our production site and see features that you guys don't see. And that makes me really confident because I don't have this war room nightmare of integrating code. We don't have that, and we tend not to have it. Maybe there is one or two projects that we cannot do it the other way, but we always challenge as a culture, I need to get to the small change. And we go to the press with it, so we have reputation to go. We launch things in beta, we move things out of beta, so we have a lot of eyes on us. And a lot of things that I talked about is about empowering. So how can we empower people? A lot of people think, I cannot do it, I cannot push, no. I mean, for now, we have 30 people, that's okay. I mean, everyone can push. we do mess up sometimes. Last year, we printed in the platform 900,000 pounds that we did not have because we can do it, because there was a big mistake. And you know, I almost didn't sleep for 2 days. And that's the horror stories that, you know, it's not all beautiful. But you know, with that, we actually brought the attention that we need to change something, and that is the constant iteration you have. And that's because we empowered everyone. We don't have delivery managers. We empowered someone to actually push the button on that day. And we give money that we didn't have to people, which is not good. We shorten the loop, which means, you know, we access data, we democratize business data, tech data, all this data dog. We stop for 2 days to get the company to hack. This is not an engineering thing. This is about layering the people of the business, I don't like to call it that, with engineers. And we ended up doing quite cool stuff. I actually have a video here. If you guys can spare it for 48 seconds, you're gonna see. And we brand ourselves, we badge ourselves, and we say things like, this is the whole company. And you know, this is about convincing like Board, like Carlos, and that we can stop for 2 days to do things like that. That makes us, this is the kind of culture we want to build. It's not about like creating silos between engineering and the business. It's about getting everyone involved in innovation. And we normally call innovation is not like a mind palace that I have, and you know, I'm the CTO, I have this innovation idea. The innovation is about opening up to everyone. Each one of us has good ideas. Sorry, Tom was really happy, as you can see, but nearly there, guys. Yeah, so we had a lot of success. So 13 ideas, and 7 out of the 13 are today things that we can apply in production. One of the ideas actually generated 70 grand after 1 month. That's quite cool. And we are in the 21st century, so we talk about things. We do coaching, and we do team coaching like football teams. Like we talk about openly about what our aspirations, what the worst case scenario. What if Seedrs doesn't get the next funding round? What if our blah, blah, blah? What if we are really successful, we are the worldwide company? So we talk about that. And we stopped to do that. And that's you know, we learned a lot about that process. And we do performance days, which is we establish what good looks like. And we are very explicit. We have very specific metrics to achieve. And, you know, we do these mini hackathons initiatives. And we try to build a tribe dynamic. So it's not about engineering as a silo. It's about like how you interrelate with your company, how you make yourself open to it, and how you basically contribute to the success for the long run of the business. And that's me. Thank you.